Welcome back, everybody, to the Fighting for Freedom podcast. I just want to say thank you to everybody for all your love and support. You guys have helped this channel grow dramatically. If you could please, at this time, drop us a like, comment, subscribe, share our podcast, turn on those bell notifications, and leave us a rating and good review. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Fighting for freedom, one podcast at a time.
What up, what up? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to another episode on the Fighting for Freedom podcast. Today, we're with the military author, Chris, out of Dallas. Let's go! That's the hockey horn right there, dude. I'm a big hockey guy, dude. Chris, what's up, brother, man? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm chilling, man. I'm chilling. The military author. We're out here, man. It's going to be a great episode. We're going to talk about Chris's over 17-year career, or 16-year career, and how he transitioned from active duty military to the person he is today. Chris, thank you so much for coming out here and giving a chance for people to listen to you, your story, and take the advice you have to offer, man.
No, awesome. Thank you so much for even having me out here. It's been an absolute pleasure. There's, getting the stuff out there and helping the community as a whole, active duty and veterans. You know, there's so much information out there that is good, bad, everywhere in between, and everyone's got advice that they want to give. But, sadly, sometimes that advice puts people on the wrong track. And hopefully I can dispel some rumors for some people today.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you so much, Chris. All right, so let's kind of jump into it. Chris, who are you? Where are you from? Where were you born?
Oh, man, I am, I guess I'm like most military people. I'm kind of a mutt to the U.S.
Gotcha.
I spent a little bit of time, all over the place. I was actually born up in Boston, Massachusetts, up there in the, so I'm big Bruins, Celtics, got to keep that hockey alive.
Oh, yeah. Nah, you're good.
And, after that, my family moved out to Washington and California. So I've got West Coast, East Coast, and a little bit up north covered. Spent most of my adult life up in Washington State, up near Tacoma, Gig Harbor, up there in the rainy state. But really enjoyed that. About 17 years old, moved down to a little town. It's kind of famous now, sadly, but Paradise, California, which is up in the south of Shasta, north of Sacramento up there. It was the town that completely burned down, that they made the movie Fire in Paradise and things like that. So
really?
It gutted the whole town in under like 2.5 hours.
Wow.
So all the, the childhood memories of growing up, going down to, grandma's house, it's just black ash. I mean, there's nothing left of any of that, which is pretty horrific. We were listening to the stuff on it, and I was just waiting to hear from like, oh man, that person I knew. But it gutted the town in like 2.5 hours. So there's the movie, I guess, depicts it pretty accurate, where firefighters are on bulldozers, like pushing cars out of the way on the highway, just trying to get so they could get through and fight this fire. And then, once I hit 18, though, I was like, you know what? I'm ready to join the military. I've always grew up in a military family. All of them were in the Navy. Grandfather was at Pearl Harbor during the bombings and, survived. Dad and uncle were both in the Navy on aircraft carriers in Vietnam. And then my other uncle was an Army paratrooper in Vietnam with the 82nd. And so I was like, well, we got the Navy, the Army covered. Let's try the Marines. And so joined the Marines, ended up doing combined. So during the 90s, got out for a little while, came back in 04, right after the big push started, and made it till 2015. When they finally medically retired me, they're like, "Yep, thank you for playing. You've done what you can. You've had enough. We've had enough. Off you go." and then moved down here to Texas, where I am now a transition officer with the military base here in San Antonio, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone who's going through the med board actually comes through me. So I'm their initial counselor. I kind of walk them through all the things that they have to do, give them advice as they're going through the process. Because I'm also an accredited veteran service officer where I can do VA claims for people. And
Okay.
this kind of a snapshot, of kind of me.
Yeah, I'm down, Chris. This is gonna be a fun episode. Let's backtrack and get into it, right? So you join the Marines because you're like, well, we don't have any of those, so let's try it out. Now, how does that kind of relay with like your family being not in the Marines but still in the military, where there's like maybe that correlation of like, hey, like this is how it is, and like you should pick this job and all that. What did you end up doing in the Marines?
In the Marines, I actually started out as a basically walk a lot as a infantry guy. I wanted to growing up watching Full Metal Jacket and Heartbreak Ridge and all those like Hollywood movies. I was like, you know what, that looks like a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So in the '90s, I was just basically an infantry machine gunner. I got to shoot the big guns off the vehicles and things like that. And they actually stationed me in Hawaii, which was amazing.
Yeah, there you go.
So
I hear
got to,
Hawaii is like one of the best duty stations to go to.
oh, people hate it because it's only like it's a small island, but I was like, you're getting paid to live for free essentially, in where
Yep.
people spend thousands and thousands of dollars to visit.
Come on vacation. Yep.
Yeah, go up to
Crazy.
North Shore, go up to the beaches, do all this other fun stuff all the time, and
Mm-hmm.
got out, moved down to Texas, but they kind of let me do my thing. They were like, if this is what you want to do, go do that. And then in '04, when the war kicked back up, I told my wife, I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm a better Marine than a civilian, so I want to go back in. I want to do, this kind of stuff. So I made the cardinal sin of going into the recruiter's office and like, hey, I was in from this. Here's my DD 214. I don't care what job you give me or where you send me. I just want to come back in the military. Recruiters are like,
Yeah.
like got him. And like, well, how about '03 infantry again, 29 Palms, California. I was like, awesome. Where the hell's 29 Palms, California?
Yeah.
And they were like, well, you see that map right there? Like right there. And they put this little dot. And I'm like, wow. So my wife and I, PCS out there, military moves us out there. She's in utter shock because she's from Houston. She's like, what is this place?
Yeah.
We absolutely grew to love it. But while I was there, I took the NDOC and got to hang out and be a team member on the Scout Sniper teams while we operated through Iraq in '05, in Ramadi, Iraq. And then we came back from that. I jumped to another battalion of infantry guys because they were about to go back to Fallujah in '07. And
Mm-hmm.
after that deployment, I was like, okay, I think I've had enough of the infantry. So I cross-trained to be a helicopter crew chief door gunner on the Huey helicopters, and then got to do that through Afghanistan in 2010. And
Okay.
on the way back, they said, well, we've got some great news for you. I'm like, we're going home. What could be better than that? They're like, you're getting promoted to E6 and you're going on recruiting duty as soon as we get back. I'm like, fuck.
Whoa. Okay.
So I was like, wow, okay. Got through that, did recruiting duty in Houston. So they sent me down to, which was like shooting fish in a barrel. Everyone's in Texas is like, go, who's this? Join the military.
Yep.
So it was a pretty easy tour. But after running and gunning for so long, sitting behind the desk, the back started hurting, knees, neck, head, all that stuff. It was just, it was a recipe for disaster, but I think a necessary evil
Mm-hmm.
that needed to happen to slow me way down because I was just go, 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 go all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, looking back, I was like, oh, I wish I would have stayed in, but I'm glad it came to a head the way it did, and I'm glad it's over and I can just get back now. I don't need to be in uniform anymore to help people out. So
Yeah, definitely. Now, when you ended up getting medically retired, you finished out as E6?
I did.
Okay. So was there any thought or any regret of not like finishing your contract all the way to like making 20 years?
I mean, looking back, the second guessing and stuff like that, of course, is there. I'm like, oh, I
Yes.
could have done this. I've got friends who are promoting up the chain. Like now they're E9s taking over these infantry battalions. I mean, they're doing great things. And God, I could have stayed in and got to 20. But I was like, at the time I was kind of bitter. I was going through the med board process. I dealt with some, hostile commands that were just absolute, just horrific commands. And so I was like, you know what? I can no longer. I always told myself when you stop having fun, it's time to move on and go. So even looking back, yeah, it was 3.5, a little over 3 years, just one more enlistment. But I was like, it's time. It's not fun anymore. It's not what I remember it being. I've done the deployments. I was with a scout sniper team. I was a helicopter crew chief, door gunner. Shooting guns off helicopters, diving in. I mean, you can't beat that. So I did everything that I wanted to do in the military. So looking back, I'm okay with the. It was time.
I feel like that's like a big aspect for a lot of people who are active duty, and they maybe feel trapped at times, right? Like, for example, 8 years in, right? You did your one enlistment, you re-enlisted, now you're 8 years in, and you're like, well, I only have 12 more years left, and then I retire. I have this beautiful pension coming in. I get to keep serving. So it's kind of like a mind game where people are like, do I do this because I should? Or do I like finally get out and say, okay, like that's it. This is time. There's even a lot of service members who make it to, 12, 16 years and they're just like, you know what? I'm done. Like they know when to call it quits. And I kind of commend people for that, because it's like,
Yeah.
you know what? You did do your time. You did your time as soon as you said goodbye to your family and you stepped on that bus and they sent you to wherever the hell they sent you so you can go to boot camp, right? Like at that moment, that's like where your time starts. And it's like, hey, man, like, I'm happy for you. I'm proud for you. I wish the best for you. But then people get to that point where they don't know when to get out. They don't know how to say, like, no, like, I am done. My pen is out of ink. Thank you so much. And, I'm going to do what I can on the outside to help people that are still on the inside.
Oh no, 100% agree with you. And and a lot of people, and I see that every day at work with the medical board people. They come in and they're getting medically retired, and I really have to be not blunt with them, but be like, look, here's the reality. Like, if you have that MEB flag on your record, only 3% are going to be retained. So in the next 6 months, because it's about 180 days to 210 days, so 6 to 8 months, and you're out. And every single time that they come in, they all say the same thing. I'm like, what are you doing to help yourself transition? Well, my unit needs me, my command needs me, they need me to do rosters. I'm like, no. I was like, they're gonna applaud you during that retirement ceremony, and then you're on your own. If you don't get yourself ready now, you're like, not to cuss, but you're FUBAR, because once you're outside that gate, the big machine's gonna keep spinning no matter what.
Exactly.
And if you're not prepared, which a lot of them are not when they come in, and it's a hard pill to swallow, like you mentioned, 16 plus years, they're in that leadership role. They, have a bunch of people underneath them. They don't want to be selfish and let, oh man, if I have to go to this appointment or this job fair, that means another person's got to work, some extra hours. And I'm like, yeah, but if you don't do that, you're going to be living on the street in 6 months. So like,
they're going to keep getting paid.
But it's a hard thing for them to transition. And the reality is, you chase that 20 years, you're going to get 50% of your base pay, depending on what rank you are. At, then they're going to tax it. And is that many more years worth that? I mean, and that's a conversation too that I have with them, break down like financially, like, look, this is what reality is. And a lot of them are like, man, damn, do I really need to do the 20, or can I get out, like you were saying, and do the reserves National Guard thing if they need to? And it's a wild ride. I mean, it's wild to see the unselfishness, but trying to get them to understand, what, the military is not everything. Like I thought it was like, I'm a Marine. Like this is all I know. And it was hard during that transition for a while. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And it's tough.
Yeah. Like you wake up and you're like, well, I have to get dressed. Like, what do I wear today?
Yeah,
You,
yeah.
you don't wake up and it's just like, it's a routine, you wear the same uniform, the same color socks, the same color undershirt. You go to the same place. Someone tells you what to do, how to do it, and you do it and you go home. That's it. And it's rinse and repeat for, your whole 20 years. But as soon as you step out into like the real world, no one's there to tell you what to wear. No one's there to give you food. No one's there to give you a house. You have to learn to kind of start over in a sense, right? And the biggest word in the military, I always say, is transition, right? That is the biggest, most scariest word in the military dictionary. Now, Chris, what's your experience with that word transition personally?
Oh man. Transitioning for me was literally the hard. I'll never forget it. July 31st, 2015. I swear to God, I feel like, what the prisoners must do when they leave the jail for that time. The door closed behind me after the retirement ceremony is done. Everyone's like, whoo, pats on the back. And the reality hit. I'm like you just said, I'm like, damn, Monday, I don't have to be in a formation at 5 a.m. We're not going to do this group PT session. I don't have to get a haircut. Holy, what am I going to do? I was in a panic. And then, as I slowly started transitioning out of the military, I really had to accept that the hardest thing for me was not accepting I'm not that door kicker anymore. I'm not the guy first to the door. It's okay to not be that guy anymore. And that was really hard because I wanted to be that guy, and I was like, well, maybe I can do this job. And they're like, no, you're hearing due to the military and your TBIs, you can't do that job. I was like, okay, shit. Going through that up and down, those peaks and valleys of, depression and anxiety, like the frustration. I had the VA and I was getting, the compensation, but I was like, I can't just sit here. And I found myself sitting here arguing with the TV talk shows, like, oh, these people are full of, listening to these people talk about stuff that they don't know and just eating. And I ended up going, like in the military, I was like 175. And before I knew it, I was like 205, 215, just sitting on the couch all day, not doing anything, just woe was me. And I'm like, no. And something switched. And that's when I ended up getting the job as with the DEA as a intel or a evidence technician, where my job was to bring the evidence in and store it like a supply guy. And that was the start. But then as I've progressed through the different careers, I've really found that that sense of purpose, that sense of identity again, that I think is lost. And we really try and talk about during the transition counseling portions is the new identity has to happen. Like it's not rinse and repeat anymore. No one is going to have a mass formation because someone's late. No one's going to, that corporal punishment stuff is gone. If you show up to work, you show up to work. If you don't get paid and you get fired. I mean, it's just that simple. And sometimes that's a scary, everyone's like, I can't wait to have the freedom back. Do you? Are you really ready for that?
Yeah.
And a lot of them, yeah. And then you see them and they're like, they're in a panic. So
it's like there's no more money coming in. It's like you're used to getting that paycheck on the 1st and the 15th, and then as soon as you get out, there's no money coming in. You have to figure that out on your damn own. And it's a scary process. Now, getting back into transition from someone who's very well knowledged on this aspect of it, what would be step one for somebody who is, let's just say, 100 days out from their last day in the military?
One, hopefully they've prepared a lot more. Now the military has actually made it, at least the Army has made it mandatory that if you're getting out or retiring, it's an 18 to 24 month. They want you to start the transition process and start taking the classes well in advance, because the homeless population is so outrageous with vets because they don't prepare. But if they are at, like that phase of it, there's things that are out there, like SkillBridge, where they can do an unpaid internship. There's, filing the VA claim at 180 days out so that they can, have that claim done when they transition out of the military. Really start thinking about, where they're going to go, start looking for jobs, start, um, applying for jobs. Everyone wants to work federal because they make all that money, but
Mm-hmm.
they don't understand that federal employment is not like Indeed, where you apply for a job and, if it's open as whatever. USA Jobs is like an 8 to 9 month process.
Yep.
So if you want to do a federal job, they need to start now to
Mm-hmm.
start applying for that, and then really take advantage of all the resources, like SkillBridge. SkillBridge is an amazing thing. There's another site now. It's called Recruit Military, and it's an actual search engine
Okay.
that you can look for jobs. And unlike Indeed, that is, those jobs have been on there for months, and their
Mm-hmm.
chances of you getting hired off Indeed is, I'm sure some people do, but it's not a
Mm-hmm.
high percentage. But Recruit Military is actually a site where the jobs on there, it's federally funded company or search engine, and their jobs are updated every it's supposed to be 4 to 6 hours, but you can go on there right now and a job was posted like 3 days ago. So it's real jobs, real salaries, ready to hire right now, and they want military people. So I think that would be the biggest things is really start preparing, accept the fact that it's coming, and don't be like the guys that we see, like they're working through, and they get to be like 4 months out, 3 months out, and they're like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I'm just going to re-enlist. And then there they go. They do 4 more years thinking, okay, 4 years are going to make the difference. But in reality, 4 more years, you're going to be in the same spot if you don't start thinking about it now.
Yeah, like everything happens for a reason. I'm a big advocate on that. And just to give a little personal insight for everyone listening, what Chris is talking about, he's speaking the real truth right now, where I was in that same situation, right? I signed the piece of paper. I re-enlisted. I'm still currently active duty, for those of you who don't know. And I'm glad I signed that piece of paper because at the time I wanted out. I signed the paper. I said, you know what? I'm going to do one more contract and then I'll be done. I regretted every day I signed that piece of paper because I wasn't mad about my duty station. I wasn't mad about my new chain of command. I wasn't mad about PCSing. None of that. I was mad that I re-enlisted, and I needed to cope with that fact. Long story short, couple months down the road, I'm like, if I didn't re-enlist, what would I be doing right now? I had none of the knowledge I have today. I had no path. I had nothing. I had maybe a dream of like, hey, one of my buddies just got out and he's working at the docks. He said he can get me a job, but that's not what I really wanted to do. I didn't have time to plan for myself. Now, since I've re-enlisted, I have 3 years, now almost a year and a half to figure out what am I going to do when I get out of the military. I've been planning, kind of having like, hey, like this is the path you're gonna follow, Vinny, right? So, like you said, skill bridge. That's something I am highly interested in. One of my friends that I'm stationed with right now, she was active duty Navy, right? She's an E6. She's getting out. She's doing the skill bridge program. She got her nutritionist degree. She's going to be a nutritionist when she gets out of the military, and she's going to be starting at like $45 an hour. That's great money utilizing the skill bridge program. Also, filing what you were saying before is your BDD claim. That's like your VA paperwork 180 days prior to you getting out of the Navy. So you get out of the military, well, not the Navy, but the military. So when you get out of the military, day one, you have something going for you. You have paperwork in, you'll potentially have some income coming in, and you're also doing SEAL Bridge. So you're getting that job. You're also getting another sense of income. So definitely, if you did re-enlist and you're regretting it, it's nothing to regret. It's something to help you prepare and get ready for your transition out of the military. And if you did get out and you're stuck, don't worry, because that's exactly what Chris is here to help you and literally let
100%.
you know that, hey, man, today is Tuesday. On Wednesday, we're going to start kicking in the ass. So just take a breath. Everything's going to be fine. And these are the steps you kind of have to follow in the end. Now, I asked you, Chris, before you get out of the military while you're still active, what are the steps you can do? Thank you very much for sharing that. Now, let's just say somebody is out of the military. What should they do to help themselves get the ball rolling?
Oh, for sure. Definitely reach out. Don't feel like you are flying solo through life, because
Mm-hmm.
the minute you start doing that is the minute you become a statistic of the 22 a day. And we see it all the time. We hear about it all the time. It's a sad reality for that. Second of all, there is a place where you can go on. It's the VA, but it's the accreditation. It's OGC accreditation search, which is where you can look up veteran service officers that are qualified through the VA that helps. They're specialized in claims. That's like where I'm accredited as well.
Okay.
And the biggest thing for that is it's free. So all these places out there that promise you, oh, I'm going to get you 100% disabled. All you have to do is pay me thousands and 30% of your claim. Like, it's all nonsense. Don't fall for that whatsoever. Find a free. Every county has them. State, federal. They're
Mm-hmm.
all out there. Search by state, county, whatever, and find a resource. All you need to do is have your medical records, which is another big thing. I hope anyone listening to this, active duty or whatever the case is, if you have any ailments, even if you think it's small, don't marginalize your own service because
Mm-hmm.
of someone else. Get everything documented, because
Yep.
if you don't have it documented, it didn't exist. And that's what these lawyers that pay, you pay all this money do, is they pay these doctors, oh, write this that says it was military related. Go get seen now, get it in your medical record book, and and don't treat yourself, because that's the magic to get 100%, is to have it in your medical record.
Yep.
Find that local resource, utilize them, get that claim rolling. Make sure you get copies of everything before you leave the military, because there's nothing worse than having to contact like headquarters or archives saying, hey, I need my medical records.
It's going to
Because you're
take
going to wait
forever.
8 to 9 months. It's so backlogged, it's stupid. And but yeah, it's like, go get seen. But if you're already out, get your records, go down to see a veteran service officer, get that claim started. Is it going to be overnight? No. But if you're in that first year of getting out and you're just submitting your VA claim, everything is retroactive back to the date of your retirement or getting out. So you're still in that year of back pay. So don't file an intent to file. Don't worry about the PACT Act thing. Don't worry about all that. Just take care of what's in front of you. Don't try and focus on a year down the road. Focus on a month down the road, so you don't spin yourself out and worry about things you can't control anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to piggyback off what you just said, Chris, is definitely get copies of everything. Your medical record is your medical record, right? YOUR, no apostrophe. So get copies of that. And what the military is doing, they're transitioning to paperless, right? So now there's something that I can't speak for everybody, but for the Navy, it's My Genesis on my Navy portal, right? Literally, I did this the other week, and I do it constantly. I go on My Genesis, I go on my health record, and you can ask for a report from My Genesis. They'll say, okay, put in your email that you want us to send it to, and we'll let you know when it's ready. As soon as it's ready, they'll send you an email saying, here is your health report. And it's literally every diagnosis, every medication you have. It's literally everything. It's your record. It'll be more than enough to suffice to you bringing to somebody, rather than you saying, hey, yeah, I got to call like Washington, D.C. and try to find where my record is, or ask my chief from 4 years ago if he remembers anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
there's
for
ways
sure.
that while you're still active that you can obtain this stuff. And if you're not active and you're out, there's still ways. Obviously, you're never going to be alone to obtaining these things. But while you're active, take full advantage of what Chris and I are saying, is to get your record in your hands, because when you get out, it's going to be so much harder. You're not going to have that base access.
No. And to make to add on a little bit to you too is the medication piece. It's so hard to go to sick call, go to the ER, spend 7 hours waiting for migraine medicine.
Mm-hmm.
But the minute you go into you bypass the military, you go into Walgreens and buy the Aleve over the counter, buy the whatever over the counter, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because you can't upload Walgreens receipts for VA claims. So it has to be medication from a actual military facility. or even if they give you the prescription, you fill it at Walgreens, that's fine, but it has to be in your medical records. And going to Walgreens or CVS or whatever drugstore you have in your local area is not getting it in your medical records.
Yep. No, 100%. If you got back pain, you got whatever you got going on, man, it's better to just be open about it and swallow pride and be like, yo, man, like, I really think something's wrong, and go get seen. And that's just like something you're taught from like at a young age, you know, like if you don't feel good, you tell your mom, and your mom's like, all right, we're going to go to the fucking doctor. Right?
Yep.
Like that's something like that should be instilled in your brain. Like, hey, like I hurt myself. I'm not a doctor. You know what I mean? Like, don't Google everything and try to like self care. You know what I mean? Go to a fucking doctor. Maybe there's actually something wrong. You know, like God forbid. That's the last thing I'd want to happen to anybody is them try to like self care or self treat, and there's actually something really wrong. And next thing you know, you're stuck in a boat without a paddle because you know you had too much pride to go to medical, even though you know he's like the guy at medical is like a 10-year E4. Who cares, you know?
So true. And it's so sad to hear how many people do that, though. And pride, it's, you know, people come in like, oh, I did 30 years as a Navy SEAL or a Green Beret or whatever, but I only have like 3 or 4 things in my medical record. It's like, how many soft landings did you have against the ground? I bet you not many. You know, you probably like knocked yourself stupid so many times it's unreal. But now is the time. Like if any advice could be given is start looking for jobs and where you're going to live and things like that early, and go to medical. Even if you've waited, you know, till your 28th year in the military, and now you're just now going to get stuff annotated in your record. The VA understands that. Don't think like, oh, I'm too late. It's never too late until the day you're out. And now you have to go back and prove to the VA this happened in service. And that's called a nexus letter. And nexus letters, even with your regular docs, about $1,500 a piece. So don't do that to yourself. Get seen now, even if it's a small thing, like, or not a small thing, but sleep apnea. Like, God, if you have problems sleeping, go get that sleep study done, because that's huge. That's a huge percentage in the VA process. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you so much, Chris. I kind of want to touch now. Now I'm curious, getting to your book, right? The Military Author. Tell me about the Military Author.
Yeah. So once I got, you know, started with Bexar County as a Veterans Treatment Court as a case manager, helping guys out of the criminal justice system. COVID hit. We all remember COVID. Everything was locked down.
COVID, what's that?
The domestic, you know, things went off the charts because everyone got sick of being around each other. You know, it turned out to be a blessing in a way. I actually sat down and started writing out all these stories, memories that I had of being in the military, because I was, due to my TBIs and stuff, I was forgetting a lot of things. So I was like, wow, you know what? I need to start doing this. And, you know, after writing it out, my wife's like, just submit it to a publisher. You know, what's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to say no. And I'm like, okay, you know, but God knew at the time I did not want to write another war book, because you can go to Barnes and Noble, Amazon, search war stories, and there's going to be billions that show up. I mean, from World War I to present day, everyone's got a book, everyone's got a story, and they all focus on the combat, the deployments, what they saw, you know, Japan parties, all that stuff, you know, and those were great, don't get me wrong, but I wanted to write a book about the uncomfortable stuff, and that's what happens to us, to families, because it's not just about us, it's about, you know, the families, the friends back home. You know, you left day one and you were this guy, came back after a year, 7 months of any type of deployment, it doesn't even matter where you went. Now you're different, you're hiding away, you're drinking all the time, you're pissed off all the time. And so the book is a little bit on the deployment, but a lot on what happens when you return home, because it kind of opens the eyes of the family. Like, why are they acting like this? Why are they dealing with this? Why are they doing this? Won't they go out of the house? Why are they, you know, triggered like that? And it also talks about the transition of getting out of the military, because I wanted to kind of give back and give to every generation. Like, look, these are the successes. These are the bigger failures that I made. Please don't make the same failures, especially while on active duty. Ignore the stigma. If you have issues, God, go get help, because there's so many that will just, I'm just going to drink myself stupid every night because no one else understands. Well, but that's the stigma the military has created, unfortunately. And we always say, oh no, there's no stigma. But come on, there's been a stigma since World War II, you know? And so the book is more about helping and giving back. And like, as you transition out, give yourself the break. You're not going to go from a 20-year, whatever your career in the military is, to civilian overnight. Oh, now I can drop everything out of the military. Hell no, that's your life for the last 20 years. Of course you're going to carry that with you. So I put that book out in November of 2001, and it's done amazing. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, Target, all these different places. And the biggest success stories have been from people I have no idea who they were. It's called Terror to Triumph. And I just did a Veterans Day talk at one of the local universities, and this lady came up to get a book signed in tears, and she told me the book ended up in the hands of her brother-in-law, who was, in California, drinking all the time, divorced, lost custody of his kids, all this stuff. And he actually listened to the audiobook because it's on Audible as well, and something clicked. And he ended up getting help. He wasn't there because he was at work, but he moved to Texas, rekindled a bunch of stuff. He's doing great. And I'm like, you know what? Hopefully that has nothing to do with the book. But if the book has helped someone like that, then even if only one book sold, that's more than enough. I couldn't ask for anything else.
That's such a true story. It's like why I wanted to do this episode with you, man. Is I feel like we have so much more in common with the platforms and the tools we're trying to use, right? Like you said, like everyone wants to hear, or everyone like the whole war stories and like the whole crazy spiels and that's cool and all, right? But like
Jumping
that's
out of planes.
Exactly. That's somebody else's story. Let them do that. What about the rest of the average people, right? What about like the real shit that goes on, the mental health illnesses, the addictions, the alcohol abuse, the help me, like I'm about to get out, what do I do, people, right? Is like why I kind of started this podcast, because every veteran or every active duty member has a story. Everybody has an experience, whether it was traumatic or really good. And I want people to come on here and share those experiences and let the average Joe know, hey man, like things are possible. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
That's absolutely what it comes down to. And also a learning experience for me. I didn't know about half the shit I know about now, right? like I said before, like I was going to get out of the military, had no clue what I was going to do, maybe go work at a dock. Next thing I know, I re-enlisted. I hated it. I was in a dark hole for like a month or two. My wife, love her to death. Thank you so much for helping me get out of that darkness and bring me to light. And now I'm happier than ever. I'm doing these episodes. I'm producing, making all these friends, learning all of this stuff. And I also want to end up writing a book in the future too. How to do it? Not a clue. Maybe you can shed some insight into like step one of a book.
For sure.
What did you do for that?
Honestly, I didn't. I kind of sat down and just started, journaling, if you will, just typing up, different stories from different times or different, depending on what you want to talk about. For me, I grew up this way. I joined the military. I deployed here, and here, came back and was a complete ass to family and friends because like, I just thought, it's no big deal. I'm just going to be pissed off and drunk all the time. That's going to be the new me. That's going to be cool. And you come out of that fog, you're like, God, what an, and then as I transitioned out of the military and witnessed and talked to so many people about, I don't understand why this happened or that happened, or, how do I cope with this when, I may have only deployed once, but, I had both my legs taken off by a roadside bomb 3 months in, but I've only deployed once. You've deployed 6 times. I'm like, yeah, but you lost your freaking legs, dude. Like, it's pretty traumatic. And, I started putting in all these stories. And send it in to a publisher. I just researched like self-publishing and there's a million ways to do it. Self-publishing. The big like Stephen King like author companies that promote all his crap. You've got to sell millions of books before they'll even think about talking to you. But there's different self-publishing ways, and you send it in, and it was I think $2,000 start to finish, and they go through the editing process with you. I edited that book, God Almighty, 10 times probably just to make sure it's perfect. And then when you say go, they publish it, they put it out to all these companies, and you're a published author.
Yeah,
so
that's so
it's
cool.
about a year process, but I mean it's fluid. I mean it flows, and then so I think that's the
that's
direct
so cool,
way to
man.
do it.
Yeah, that's so cool. I also want to give a quick shout out to Jenna and her book, the Veteran Workbook.
Absolutely.
That is definitely something to look into. If you are a reader or you are a listener via audiobooks, definitely check out Chris's book and definitely check out Jenna's book. You said it's available Walmart, Amazon, all the major places?
Yep, and it's just TO and then Triumph, and it'll pull up. The front cover is a service member kind of looking down with a little passage. The toughest battles are the ones you fight with yourself back home. And I truly believe that, like, the military and deployments are kind of the same. It's wash, repeat. If something's going to happen, it's going to happen. Like that. You're going to have no control. The hardest thing is shutting that light off. And when you get back here, and everyone who deploys, or anyone who's a firefighter, EMT, a cop on the street, a dock worker, whatever, everyone deals with trauma, or has trauma in their life in some form. And nothing kills me more than when people underplay it. But I tell people this, like, what about the firefighters at Oklahoma City that committed suicide and all that? They didn't deploy. They went down the street and took care of a big, like, disaster. The firefighters 9/11, they didn't deploy. That's in their backyard. But I was like, is it okay for them to have trauma and deal with stuff?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course. Then why is it not okay for you? And a lot of times people look at me, they get pissed off and like, but you can see the light go on. You're like, shit, I guess if it's okay for them, it's okay for me too.
Yep.
And that's the biggest thing that I wanted with the book also is, look, I went through, I mean, I was just a knuckle dragging infantry guy in the Marines to now I'm a transition counselor helping service members and, writing a book and trying to help people get back on their feet. Like, if I can do it, anyone can do it, and
definitely.
then people like you, put out this podcast doing great things. Jenna got to go on her episode. She put out the Veteran Workbook. I mean, just doing phenomenal things. And there's so many doing amazing vets, doing amazing things to help vets. I mean, it's just like, reach out and be part of something. I mean, the community is growing so much. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, no. Thank you very much for the clout, not the clout, the spotlight, if you will. Thank you, Chris. I really do appreciate it. It's those words that, like, make us just keep going forward. It's that lady who comes up to you, shaking, trying to get her book autographed, telling you like, hey, like, you actually did something, everything you've been doing, Chris, has helped somebody, and you may not know it, but eventually you will, and that story right there is exactly what, like, we look forward to. I don't need clout. I don't need millions of dollars. I don't need followers. I said this on one of my last podcasts I did with Jeff Clark. I said, I don't chase followers. I chase the community. Because at the end of the day, the community will always have your back. If you need help, you can always reach out. Like, I've made so many friends doing this, where if I have any specific question to any specific person, I can surely reach out to them and be like, hey, I want to start a business. How do I, what's an EIN? Or I want to write a book, Chris. How do I write a book? Or I want to start up a YouTube channel. Hector, how do I do that? You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
Things like that, man. Like, this community has been nothing but great. I'm still active duty, and the people I work with, the people I'm with every day, some of the best people I've ever met. But I'm more excited to jump into that veteran community and actually, mingle and say, hey, like, hey, I'm done. I did my time. I transitioned. I'm out. This is what I'm doing. This is where I'm at. If you need any tips, if you need any help, let me know.
100%. And then, are you in the? You're in the Navy, I presume, correct?
I'm in the Navy, yes.
Okay. Take a look at the policy, because the Navy is the only branch that does this. If you're planning on doing skill bridge, you need to put in the intent to do skill bridge, which is normally done. They say a year out. Skill bridge is 180 days, but a year before that, you need to. So I guess it's a number thing, so they can put another ass in the seat or something. But do that, because there's a lot of Navy guys I meet every day that waited till the last minute, and then they got to fight with their command. They're in the medical. It's tough to get them to do skill bridge. But so make sure you like plan ahead. That way you can knock that out, and you don't get sidelined because of you didn't follow the 1 year intent to skill bridge thing.
Yeah. No, definitely. When I was first looking to get out, before I re-enlisted, I walked into like my career counselor's office, and I was like, I want to do skill bridge, and he was like, it's fucking great. Well, do you know anything about it? And I was like, not a thing. I had some, I had some research. You know what I mean? But I wanted to be, I wanted to be taught Barney style. I wanted it to be broken down like as simple as could be. And he was like, well, how much time do you have left? And I was like, 8 months. And he was like, cutting it close. And I was like, okay, I didn't know that. So now moving forward, and also one of my first classes, one of my E6s, is now the career counselor like of the command I'm at. So he he's harping on me. Like I told him, he was like, "What's your plan?" Like, we did like a CDB, the Career Development Board, and a lot of people don't take them too seriously. But if you're about to get out of the military and like, hey, this is my last contract, take it seriously, because most of the time when you walk into that CDB and you do your board and you say, "Hey, I'm getting the fuck out," right? They're gonna be like, "All right, well, what's your plan?" Right? Like, I'm not, and they're like, I don't know, it's like, okay, well, that's not really helping anybody. So take your last year, 2 years seriously, because like Chris just said, sometimes it doesn't work out the way you think it's going to. So plan ahead to make sure it does work out for you and in your favor.
100%. And be realistic also. Don't think, these young Thundercats, 4 years, and I'm like getting old now. I'm like 47, almost 48. I'm getting old, but these young cats come through here all the time, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to get out. I'm going to be in IT. I'm going to make millions of dollars right off the jump." Like, be realistic and have expectations set that are not like, "I'm going to win the lottery tomorrow." Well, I hope you do. Good on you. But if you don't, do this and something that, and you'll get this brief a million times as you transition out, but skill bridge also has to be in conjunction with terminal, which terminal leave, the Army only allows 60 days. Hopefully, I think that it's across the board. But if you stack it right, and that skill bridge wants to hire you, which skill bridge to hire is about 93%, it's really good rate. The first day you're on terminal, you can actually start getting paid from that skill bridge. So you double dip the last 60 days. So if you stack yourself up, and this is just like useless crap that I know that doesn't do me any good. And that's why I want to share with as many people as I can to help them navigate this like roller coaster and things like that. And it's, so.
Hell yeah, that's definitely something I didn't know. And that's something that I'm going to pass on to the person that I work with, my coworker, who is going to go into the skill bridge program and then take terminal leave. I'm definitely going to let her know that. I just clipped that, and I'm going to send it to her right away just to make sure she's aware of that resource. That's actually really cool.
From day, first day on terminal. So if you slide it a little bit right, and you're like, okay, 60 days, you start it, and then bam, you're good. Wow, so that's another resource. So you could double dip the last 60 days, and you do your VA claim at 180 days, and that's a whole nother roller coaster of different events that you need to do, and there's steps to take. But that'll all come. But I'm also available if anyone needs any help or comments, questions, or whatever. I'm all over social media. So
yeah, Chris, throw out your handle. Whatever you got going on. This way, if someone does want to reach out, or someone just wants to say, "Hey, man, I love you. You know what I mean?
No.
How do they go about doing that?
I am on Facebook under Care to Triumph. You will see the let's see if I can pull up the get out of here. The where is it? Yeah, so the Care to, let's see if it'll, no, it's not going to zoom in, but it's Care to Triumph.
I have it though. For anyone listening or watching on YouTube, I'm going to throw those pictures in way before this episode even starts. So we'll be good with that. But go ahead.
Nice. And then I've got the, on there, it's got the Marine Corps ribbon rack with the combat aircrew wings on it and all that stuff. Easy to find. I've also got a YouTube channel, Care to Triumph, as well. It's got a picture of the one of the hats that I've got with the Care to Triumph logo on it, because I'm utilizing it to help people. If you are interested in, I've got a storefront with about 38 products on there that people can take a look at from different things, and just trying to use that to help fund different projects to help veterans with their VA claims. And then also my wife, who has put up with me for through all my deployments, all my hey, it's 1:00 in the morning, wake up, go get me another 12-pack of beer. And she did, because she knew if she didn't, I would have driven myself. But she also started her own the Wife Family Therapy PLLC.
Oh, wow.
Because there's tons of resources out there, even if people don't want to talk about them for us, but there's not a lot of things out there for women or the wives, and we all refer to them. Oh, my wife and I, the wife. So she wanted to start her own PLC to help military spouses, military families as an outlet. So she has her own thing on Facebook as well that you can check out. And if you need any resources or help, you're not if you're on active duty, you still have to get. She sees active duty service members also, but you'll have to get a referral to it. But you're not in line for 6 months waiting on an appointment. She can see you within a week or two. So
nice.
That's another resource for people as well. If they want to reach out and get some assistance, and they don't want it on their military record, but they want to talk to somebody, a great point of contact, because she wants to give back as well.
Oh, that's dope. You guys are the dynamic duo over there. Damn, Chris. We should get you guys capes or something. That'd be cool. Hey, Chris, is there anything that you want to let the audience know, let everyone listening know that I didn't ask you already?
Oh, man, we covered so many big topics and things like that. I think the biggest thing, like what we've said throughout this, is, no matter where you're at, whether you're in, you're still in, you're getting ready to get out, have a plan. Don't wait till the last minute, and don't think you're the only person out there going through the same struggles, because everyone's dealing with the same thing, just in a different way.
Correct,
and reach out to all the resources. And as you go through that transition process, like you said, that last year or two of your career, go to the Transition Assistance Program office, meet with one of the counselors, take advantage, like SkillBridge. I mean, take advantage of all those resources, because they're there for you. And if you don't utilize them, they're just going to go unused, and they're going to be wasted. So just take full advantage, and then the sky's the limit.
Nice. I love it, Chris. Any questions you have for me before I let you go?
No. I think this is, one, just thank you so much for having me on it and allowing me to, share the stories and, any advice that I can give to people. And I mean, if you have any questions as you transition out, hear one thing.
I will. Yeah.
And it's suspect, I'm as blunt and marine to the point as I can get. So, I tell people all the time, I'm not DOD anymore. I'm just a civilian contractor. If you want to yell, scream, you're a colonel, 06, okay, cool. Like, what's up, Mike?
yeah.
I'm not in uniform anymore, so I don't mind hurting feelings, but I'll definitely get the information that's needed and the truth behind it, not this is what the book says, but we're going to do it this way. No, the book is the book.
Yeah.
You guys are the ones who put it in black and white, so follow it. Let's go. So.
All right. Chris, thank you very much. Freedom Empire, take all that knowledge, take all that information. Don't sit on it.
Views presented
are
Thank you
those
guys
of the
very much.
speaker
We'll
and the
catch you next
guest
time on the
do
pod.
not necessarily represent the views of the Department of Defense or its components. Neither the Department of Defense or its components bears any responsibility for the accuracy, legality, or content of the views discussed on this podcast. Now, without further ado, let's get into this.